Up until 1848, all of Haverhill's hand tubs, and they were hand tubs back there, you actually had to pump them mechanically, required water to be supplied to them using leather buckets with the brigades, as they call them.
Right. Those were the days, huh?
Yeah. These engines were gradually replaced by self-feeding suction type engines, and which drew water from a supply through a suction hose. I have some information here on how much they cost. For instance, the first one I believe cost $182.20 or something like that.
You can't even.
Versus the new
Can't
ladder
even
truck,
yeah.
which cost us just under $500,000,
Yeah, see?
$456,000.
Yeah, there's quite a difference.
Little
Yeah,
difference in
yeah.
price.
Something else that might be of interest is the fact that in 1859, and this is naturally before we had a true Haverhill Fire Department, these were individual companies that were independent. In 1859, there were 6 active fire companies in Haverhill, and I have the names of the foremans, but we won't go into that. We have the Tiger Company number 1 out of Water Street, the Torrent Company number 2 out of Washington Square, or near Essex Street. We have the George W. Lee number 4, which was out of, first out of the Pleasant Street Fire Station, and then out of the Court Street Fire Station. And we had an independent ladder company, number 2, and we had the Protector Company number 3 out of Ayers Village, Rocks Village, and we had, at that time, the Franklin number 1 company out of Bradford. And again, they were independent. The Rocks Village Station was built in 1829. And the one in Ayers Village was built in 1870. And we run out of that 1870 building right now. Not too long, probably it was about 1955. Rocks Village had a motorized engine, and a pumper, let's call it a pumper. And they put it in on the old fire station and went through the floor. So about 1955, they built the present Rocks Village Station. The title I have here is Jet Fighter Crashes and Burns in Riverside, Killing 2 Children. And this took place on June 30th of 1964. It was an Air Force National Guard F-86 jet fighter, and it was out of Hanscom Field, and it rained death and destruction in the Riverside area when it crashed on Lackey Street, and it killed 2 children and caused extensive property damage. The pilot of the ill-fated jet was Captain D.F. Sullivan, age 33, out of Boston. He was married and the father of 5 children himself. And Captain Sullivan reported that he was flying on night operational training, and 18 minutes out of Hanscom Field and 8 miles west of Hampton, he experienced an in-air explosion aboard the aircraft, causing it an in-flight malfunction that resulted in the loss of his engine. Captain Sullivan tried to direct his crippled aircraft to a dark, deserted area to avoid hitting residential homes just before he ejected from the aircraft. Another explosion after he bailed out, causing the aircraft to make a 90-degree turn to the left, causing it to crash into a heavily populated riverside area. Captain Sullivan landed in a tree on the bank of the Merrimack River near the Rocks Village Bridge. After cutting himself free and paddling upriver in a life raft toward Haverhill, he radioed his base by portable radio and was picked up at 2:40 a.m. near the Groveland Bridge by a Coast Guard helicopter. The crash scene involved a 300-foot area along Lackey Street. In reconstructing the path of the crippled jet, investigators learned it first struck the front corner section of a home on 40 Lackey Street, with its right wing slicing through the living room and bedroom. After striking the automobile next door, it traveled diagonally across the street and demolished 5 more automobiles, including one owned by a gentleman on 29 Lackey Street. Flaming aviation fuel spilling from the wrecked aircraft set fire to 3 more homes before the jet slammed into a utility pole, knocking out both telephone and power, and plunged sideways into the home of Mr. and Mrs. Earl H. Gifford at 19 Lackey Street. On impact, the aircraft exploded, and it was responsible for killing 11-year-old Pamela Gifford and her 8-year-old brother, Todd, as they slept in their beds. There's something interesting at that time. Groveland Police Chief James J. Shanahan and Groveland Selectman Earl L. Sweetser and James N. Chuligan, who have all passed away, witnessed the crash from Groveland Square and the Groveland Bridge. Chief Shanahan radioed a call to Haverhill Police and Fire Departments. Shanahan, Sweetser, and Chuligan were the first at the scene of the Guilford home and attempted to rescue the children, but were driven back by the intense heat and smoke. The Haverhill Fire Department, with all the calls, responded quickly, and then Fire Chief Louis C. Burton directed firefighting operations at the crash scene, bringing the fire under control by about 1:30 a.m. One thing that was used back there that wasn't used too often was foam. They needed foam. The application of foam was required to fight the aircraft fire, like I said, and when extinguishing the jet's remains were cooled with spray, and there were reports of a strong odor of escaping gas causing fear of a secondary explosion. Assistant Manager Kenneth Martin of the Haverhill Gas Company reported after inspecting the site that there were no gas lines that had ruptured. Several high-ranking Air Force officials and 4 civilian experts were at the scene early in the investigation, and Haverhill Police were commended for their job of protecting the wreckage and their control of traffic and the thousands of curious spectators who swarmed the area, as you can imagine, to view the wreckage at the crash site. A memorial fund in the name of the Gifford children was started by the members of the Riverside Memorial Church on Groveland Street at the Giffords Parish.
I remember that, even that, 1964, observing the disaster and everything else, and it was a spectacular sight.
I wasn't a firefighter at that time, but I was still chasing the engines, you might say.
Yeah.
I lived in Ward Hill at the time, and I think it was like 2 in the morning or something like that. I can't remember why I was awake, but I heard it come in, and I think it was actually broadcast over one of the local, or maybe it was a Boston station, and I just flew over there
Right,
and to see it.